You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. If you want to support the show, there's several links in the description of this video that you can do that. And I'll tell you also, so obviously flying solo this morning. We may have Jacob hop on in a minute. Haven't heard back from him, which usually means he's probably trying to crawl out of bed and grab that cup of coffee. So he may join us. I know Tim had some plans already. So one thing I will say, may hear a little background noise. We're on puppy patrol right now. Okay, so we're having to watch the pups here as my wife is a little bit busy today. I'm going to see if I can get you a shot here real quick, though. Here's Lincoln over here. A little bit hard to see him. His face is off camera, but my man taking him a nap over there. He's just chilling. Hey, Link. What's up, bub? There he is. So that's the co-host today here in the studio. All right, so that's probably going to get them riled up too. I apologize for that. Here they go. It's on. Let's go to the chat real quick, see what everybody's doing in here. I know we got a herd of people. We got United Bates in the house. We got Greg. We got Nick. Nick in the chat said, first time here, I'll hang for as long as I can. Sadly, I'm at work. And, of course, like I told Nick in the chat, buddy, don't get fired, all right? Let's protect that bread just a little bit longer, all right? Make sure you don't do anything to get yourself in trouble. We appreciate you joining us this morning. Also, we got Coach Lynn in the house. Says, rise and shine here on the West Coast. Man, I tell you, we had the most beautiful sunrise this morning, man. Spring is in the air. The birds are chirping. A little chilly, but that kind of comes along with spring. I'm excited. As soon as I wrap this up, I'm going to get out here on the property today and do a little bit of cleanup. So just a little redneck therapy, if you will. Mike Berry in the house says, heard the first loon of the year this morning. Hope spring is here to stay. I know you guys, if you're up north there in Wisconsin, probably got a couple more snows, I would imagine. Right? I know you don't want to hear that, but it seems like every April, sometimes in May, it seems like we hear about a little bit of a flurry or two. So, but yeah, good to see everybody in here, man. Looks like everybody's filing in. Yeah, there you go. Milltown Corey, let's go German Shepherds. Go Pack, go. So you can probably still hear them in the background. The rabbits are running loose on the property right now. So every time Lincoln sees a rabbit, he loses his mind, man. He's just now turned a year old, I guess 13 months old now. And he doesn't know how to act when it comes to the rabbits running loose. Of course, outside the fence where he can't get to them. Thank God for that. That'd be a mess to clean up. But let's see here. 2-0 for this in the chat. Say Clayton with his best Bill Belichick during the 2020 draft impression with the dog. It's right. Bill's dog was named Nike, right? Best image on the web that year, man. I think it was during COVID when everybody was kind of doing their drafts remote. They take a shot. Let's take a shot over here at Bill Belichick and his remote location. And sure enough, there was Nike sitting in front of the laptop. So probably one of the coolest names too for a dog. Love that. So Do You Rant says Clayton Snow is a 4-letter word. It's funny you say that because snow is one of the things that kind of drew me to the Packers, to be honest with you, right? And again, I would feel totally different if I had to deal with it as much as everyone up north did, right? But just the thought of Lambeau Field, cold football in the rain, the snow, the mud, the way football's supposed to be played, that's really what kind of drew me to the Packers. Milltown Corey in here trying to get me in trouble says Lincoln's fired up for another mock draft. No, Lincoln is not. I spoke to Lincoln just a second ago, and he said no mock draft today. All right. We'll probably slip one in when he's getting his nap in here in a little bit. I ain't going to lie. But let's just kind of get into what we wanted to talk about. I'm going to kill my cam here. There's no reason to stare at my ugly mug this entire time. But we had a listener the other day, and you may be in the chat. I apologize. We're getting all kinds of feedback through text line, through the email line, through our Patreon group, which you can find the link for that in the description of this video as well. getting a lot of feedback saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Someone suggested, why don't you take a look at the free agents, the people who are scheduled to be free agents next year, right? Next offseason. Maybe that'll kind of steer us in the direction of where we're going to draft this year. And that's something that we've already done, to be honest with you. It's kind of how we've looked at the draft this year. You've heard us talk about Kenny Clark quite a bit. Kenny Clark is hands down our best defensive lineman. So I say defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. So I don't want anyone to think this is Kenny Clark slander. I would love to have him back. You never want to get rid of your best player at a position. It just comes down to the dollars and cents, right? What's the market value? What's it going to cost to have him back? I think we would all probably agree that based on us running a 34 defense and them having a 2-gap and not be able to be aggressive, as you've heard many people say, if Kenny Clark was in a 1-gap scheme, which they ran a little 1-gap last year when they were in their nickel 2-4-5. It's just when you're in that base 34, it's more of a 2-gap approach. You can't be as aggressive up front. Now, with that, there's pros and cons, right? The pros of being more aggressive, and this was something I think that Mark Tauscher talked about yesterday on Wildy and Tausch, was if you jump that gap, right, it allows you to be aggressive and get in the backfield. You're going to have those 4 to 6 yard losses on runs, right? And you're going to be able to get to the quarterback quick on occasion. You're also going to give up those big gashing plays. That was the thing about the 34 front, which Tauscher said it earlier this year. And I know that when I asked Mike Wall on the pod the other day, former guard for the Packers, played in the early 2000s, he said the same thing. He kind of hinted towards, it's harder to block against the 34 front. So we've all got this in our mind that as soon as we switch to a 4-3 front, when it comes to a base against a 21 personnel, 12 personnel, 13 personnel, that all of a sudden you're going to be able to be more aggressive in the passing game and get in the backfield, and all our problems are solved. The way that defense operates in the game of football is if you're going to give something up, if you want to take something away, you got to give something up, right? That's typically how it works. So we got to kind of curb the enthusiasm on that just a touch. Now, does it allow our defensive line to play more aggressive? Absolutely. And I think Tausch hit it on the head. Like, you're going to get some 4 to 6 yard losses, but you're also going to give up some more explosive plays on the ground, right? And possibly through the air too. It's going to be one of those things where we'll probably have more interceptions this year, and that's a great thing. Obviously, turnover differential is one of, if not the most important statistics in the game of football. But you're also going to give up those explosive plays, and like we always talk about, if you give up an explosive play, it triples your chances of scoring. It triples the chances of your opponent scoring on that drive, right? With I think the explosive plays on the ground are runs of 10 yards or more, and then the passing game, it's passes of 20 yards or more, if I remember correctly. Might have been 12 or 13 yards on the ground too. I've already deleted that graphic, which you kind of get the point. You give up those explosive plays, it puts your defense on their heels. If it's an explosive run, let's say for 18 yards, guess what? Now your defense got to start keying on the run a little bit more. That opens up the play action pass. If you hit a bomb down the field to a vertical threat, guess what? That causes the defense to kind of take an extra step back. That opens up the run, right? So just something to kind of keep in mind there with that. But when it comes to the free agents, Kenny Clark at the top of the list, obviously. Market value. Let's take a quick peek at the market value. Hopefully this doesn't mess us up when we come back to this screen. So Kenny Clark's market value as it sits right now is only $16.7 million. Keep in mind, he's on the books this year for, $27 million? So it kind of shows you how overpaid he is based off of the market, right? And again, the market isn't everything. Some teams are willing to overpay for specific positions and leaders in the locker room and all that. But it's just something to kind of keep your eye on. It says his current contract is $17.5 million, but keep in mind the cap hit is the one that's over like the 24, 27 million mark, somewhere around there. When you talk about comparable players, tell me if you think these guys are just dominant defensive linemen in the game. Javon Hargrave, Grady Jarrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, David Onyemata, right? You notice you don't hear like your Aaron Donalds. You don't hear your Chris Jones. You don't hear Quinnen Williams, right? And when you kind of overpay for someone like that, it's going to hurt you against the cap. It's going to kind of hem you up a little bit. I'm hoping now we see Kenny Clark kind of step into that role in a 4-3 defense, being more aggressive with more one-gap approach. I'm hoping you're going to see him amplified this year, right? That's the goal. So hopefully that kind of unlocks him like we're hoping that the 4-3 defense unlocks our boy Quay Walker, and potentially the Will backer row, right? So let's see here. Up next is Jordan Love. Again, Jordan Love, the thing about Jordan is, yes, he's under contract only through next year, but you've got 2 years you can franchise tag him. We do not want to franchise tag Jordan Love. You want to get a long-term deal done. That helps you with the cap. You're able to maneuver the cap a lot more easily. If you get the deal done now in 2 years, it's going to look like a bargain, right? If he's your guy. And I guess I want to ask the chat that. It'll be hard for me to kind of keep up with the chat flying solo this morning, but do you think Jordan Love is the guy? And what I mean by the guy is, if you look at his market value, they're saying $44.8 million. Some people are saying he may try to reach $60 million per on average. Others are saying 50 is the mark. What number would you put on it? Average salary per year, okay? So basically average cap hit cost would be the better way to put it. Now, keep in mind, you're going to be able to maneuver that cap a lot more easily if it's a long-term deal. But that's my question, everybody. Do you think Jordan is the guy? All right. And let's see here. Nico in the chat says, I think Jordan is the guy. Ron Sanville says, I think he's the guy. I do too. And just hearing people kind of talk about him and what he did last year, those last 9 games, guys, he was elite. People don't want to hear this. And honestly, I'm nervous to even allow the words to come out of my mouth. But if you look at the last 9 games last season, that was Aaron Rodgers type stuff. Now, the problem is the first 8 weeks, cheeks, right? So the first 8 weeks were Dan Orlovsky type stuff in some occasions. There was some inaccuracy and all that. I think he is that guy from the last 9 weeks. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm 100% yes, throw the book at him, give him whatever he wants type, Patrick Mahomes type guy. Wildy and Tausch did a really cool thing yesterday where they kind of went through the top graded quarterbacks in the league and said, would you take Jordan over him or not? Would you take Jordan over him or not? And I think they settled on him being the 5th best quarterback based off of the PFF grades and comparing him to the top 10, because I think he graded out 12th. Now, keep in mind, if you just reduce it to the last 9 games, he was probably the highest graded quarterback in the league. He played that well. So it's just an interesting conversation. I always want to make sure I'm getting other people's opinion because I kind of get, cornered into my own little box here. And you just kind of assume people either agree with you or they disagree with you and nothing in between. Chad Inc. says 40 to 45 million in his opinion. Okay. It may be tough to get him for that, Chad, and that's what makes the decision so difficult, right? Or at least the negotiation so difficult. But it's just one of those things, man, where he lit it up. Absolutely lit it up the second half of the season. Let's see here. Ben Holden says, yes, watch the tape. I might have to try that, Ben. I haven't done that yet. He is a combination of Favre and Rodgers. Coach Lynn says Jordan is definitely the guy. Mike Berry, yes. 2-0 for this in the chat says he is both the guy and that dude. I think what he means by that, too, it sounds silly, but the guy is that's the dude that can get the job done on the field, and he's also that dude that his teammates absolutely love. He's that leader in the locker room. You just tell that. It was on the scouting reports everywhere. This dude is a natural-born leader, and you can see it. Let's see. Milltown Corey says, I would hope Jordan sees that what Aaron did to the cap and takes around 45, not 60. I think we disagree on that, Milltown Corey. If you go back and average out Aaron Rodgers' cap hit throughout his career, I think you'd be surprised. Do that. Go look at where his cap hit was. And some would say, well, on the back side of the contract, there was guaranteed that we had to eat like to the tune of $41 million, right? That last year, and he didn't even play. Take that $41 million and tack it into the averaged salary cap hit per year and go back on Spotrac as far as they'll let you and look at the cap hit rankings for the quarterbacks. I don't think there was one time Jordan Love was number 1 in the league. Most of the time, he was outside of the top 5. So, and I'm talking about the quarterback position because I kind of felt the same way. And when you go look at it, it's like, he could have really taken us out behind the woodshed with contracts. So, and the thing about Jordan, he's got to get every dime he can get, man. Like, you never know what's going to happen. Nick Collins held out. If I remember correctly, and y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong here. If I remember correctly, Nick Collins held out, got his contract because he held out, and then the next year he broke his neck. So we got to look at it from the player standpoint too, right? I get what you're saying, though. We would all like to think, man, how much money do you need, right? But it's just tough, man. I hate spending other people's money, right? And I darn sure hate telling people, nope, you're not allowed to make this much. So Chad Inc. said he's the guy for sure. He's only going to get better. I agree with that. I think his ceiling, his upside is just through the freaking roof. Do you rant says yes. Everyone in the chat's pretty much saying yeah. Mr. Death said, I think Jordan take a family-friendly deal, and he wants the Packers to win. So I think a 30 or 35 million per year, not a 40 to $50 million deal. Mr. Death, I hope you are correct, sir. I hope you're correct. That would be absolutely awesome for us Packer fans. Mr. Goat ran a mock and took Penix at 41 with the shrug emoji. Please don't get that started in here. Ron Sample, as we all know, though, it was a full team trying to get in sync. Very true, Ron. Very true. I'm talking about the accuracy, though, man. I agree. There was plenty of blame to go around on the entire team. The first half of the season, the defense kind of carried the team, right? Because the offense was struggling so bad. If you go back and look at it, though, there were some really inaccurate balls. So there's just, like you said, it's a full team trying to get in sync. You can be off just a smidget, right? And it look horrible when we all know, as Coach Lynn would say, I'm sure, just thin threads, man, in the game of football. Timing is everything, right? M. Smitty says, love is the dude. Let's see here. Mr. Goat says, Goot always tries to have a guy behind the guy in a contract year. Very true. Let's see here. Milltown Corey, Aaron Rodgers was not in top 5 in pay, really. You're going to make me do it, ain't you? You're going to make me do it. Let me show you real quick, bub. Let's go cap tracker. Give me just a second. Let's see if we can set this up. We're going way off base now. I could be wrong, but we're going to go cap hit across the league. Let me try to widen this out. Give me just a second. Bear with me here, and let's go and look at top salaries, cap hits. All right, let's go back as far as they'll let us. And I don't think they'll let us go all the way back without a subscription, if I remember correctly. Let's see if this does it here. Let's go quarterbacks. Let's start in 2011. Yeah, so it's going to require a password. There's so many years that you can go back here. Let's just start with let's try 2019. 2019 quarterback. Nope, ain't going to happen. I know it lets you go back a certain distance here. Bear with me just a second. It might just be like 3 or 4 years. All right. So here's cap hits for 2020 for quarterbacks. All right. Dak Prescott is in first place at 31.4. This was the year Aaron Rodgers won the MVP. Okay. Let's see. Let me close this back in here so y'all can see it a little bit better. Hopefully y'all can see that all right. Dak Prescott, first in the league at 31.4 million cap hit. Russell Wilson, 31 million in second place. Jared Goff, 28.8 million. Number 4, Jimmy Garoppolo. These names are wild. 26.1. Tom Brady, 25. Phillip Rivers, 25. Ben Roethlisberger, 23.7. Drew Brees, 23.6. Ryan Tannehill, 22.5. Aaron Rodgers was 10th that year at 21.6. Right? So, yeah, you're good. Milltown Corey said, sorry for taking you off your regular schedule programming. So, again, 2020, he was 10th, right? Let's go 2021. 2021 quarterbacks across the league. Now you see him jump up to 3rd, right? So you got Russell Wilson, 32. Kirk Cousins, I giggle at that all the time, 31.1. Aaron Rodgers, 27 million. So he was 4 million less than Kirk Cousins against the cap and roughly 5 million less than our boy Russell Wilson against the cap in 2021. Let's go 2022, the last year he was in Green Bay. Here he was Ryan Tannehill, 38.6 million. Patrick Mahomes, 35.7. Kirk Cousins, 31.4. Jared Goff, 31.1. Aaron Rodgers, 28.5. So those last 2 seasons that he was in Green Bay, he was in the top 5. If you go back to earlier than that, and I had seen the number before, in some cases, he was like 12th, which blew my freaking mind. So that's something the media kind of drums up too. It's like, you tack that 50 million, right? He's a $50 million quarterback. And it's, Pat McAfee did a good job of kind of calling Ian Rappaport out on that, because he said, the way he called it was like, how come you report Aaron Rodgers' contract as $50 million per, but everyone else's you report it differently? So anyway, we shouldn't even be talking about Aaron Rodgers, but here we are. When you're talking about quarterbacks getting an extension, right? You gotta kind of comp it to what you had before and what position it puts you in. I think it's
We all have smartphones, and we all know they're pretty amazing, but they also can be amazingly distracting, especially when we're around other people. So US Cellular wants us to reset our relationship with our phones by putting down our phones for $5. That's right, a company that sells phones wants us to put down our phones. And to see what we find, learn more at uscellular.com/built-for-us. This spring, make sure you're eating stress-free with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every single one of Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Like literally 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, Vegan, and Veggie. And they've got more than 60 add-ons every single week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, beverages. So there's nothing to wait for. Get started right away. If you're looking for something gourmet, they've got that too. They got premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, asparagus. I don't even eat that good. It's also going to be tailored to your schedule. You can customize your weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much or as little as you need, pause, or reschedule deliveries to suit your lifestyle. So head over to factormeals.com/PackDaddy50 to use code PackDaddy50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code PackDaddy50 at Factor.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Have you ever experienced turbulence on a flight and wondered why?
And you can see all the terrain around you. You've got no issue with visibility or anything?
No, everything's PG.
Maybe you've sat on the tarmac for hours wondering why your plane isn't moving.
Well, we're outside here. They're saying the ramp is closed. They won't let us park because of Air Force One.
Listen in on the conversations between pilots and air traffic controllers on the Air Traffic Out of Control podcast.
510 Whiskey declaring an emergency. There's smoke in the cabin. I need to make a landing right now on 31 left.
We have the most interesting, wild, and funny ATC recordings you will ever hear. Check out Air Traffic Out of Control wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I think it's a logical conversation. Let's see here. Green Bay. Let's see if we can get back to where we were at. Milltown Corey getting us off our mark here. So anyway, Jordan Love, right? Again, I think he's going to be a Packer. Eric Stokes is one, right? You hear us talking about drafting a cornerback. Some people are going, no, I think Stokes is just the injuries that's hurt him, right? Well, he's graded out in the 50s the last two seasons, if I remember correctly. His rookie year, he graded out in the 60s. So he's kind of a decline, right? And you've got a fifth-year option decision you need to make on Eric Stokes, or you got to give him an extension. That fifth-year option, $12 million guaranteed. I don't think there's many people that would say, yeah, I'm okay with Eric Stokes at $12 million. He could be a great player. We just haven't seen it, right? So let's see here. Yeah, Coach Lynn in the chat says Rodgers was taking discounts for years. I agree. That's kind of how I looked at it. Again, I don't want to cause any arguments in here. But I agree with that, Coach Lynn, for sure. Up next is A.J. Dillon, right? We kind of seen the value in which the Packers place on A.J. Dillon. He's pretty much playing under a minimum with some incentives, I guess you could say, the way that fourth-year option works. Corey Ballantyne. I think Corey Ballantyne's a decent corner. I actually think Corey Ballantyne is our second-best outside corner. I think he has played better than Eric Stokes when they're on the field the last two seasons. So that's kind of how I see him. I'm probably in the minority there. That's okay, though. Josh Myers at center, right? Going to be a free agent next year. That's why we're looking to replace him right now. Now, the information that Rob Domofsky shared yesterday, obviously, it kind of stoked up some serious conversations, some heated debates, I should say. We don't know if that's a smokescreen. Now, he's saying that someone within the building told him that. I hate to label people as a liar. Like, I don't know if he's, who am I to say you're lying? And I wasn't part of the conversation. I don't know him from Adam. I don't have a personal friendship with Rob Domofsky. So I try to take people for their word, right? I think he probably heard it. Now, was it a smokescreen and they actually like Josh Myers? Or was it hey, we're kind of preparing the fan base for this is the move we're probably going to be making? That could be the case. Nonetheless, though, if you ask me, if Josh Myers is willing to take a darn near minimum contract, yeah, I bring him back. And you got a little depth there. You set your floor, and then you try to replace him with someone that you're going to pay a little bit more and increase the value there. Do I think he'll take less? No, because he's a big center. He's got a lot of high athletic profile, right? One of those guys that would test out well if he did test, I would imagine. He's a big center. He's a strong center. He's very quick. He's kind of that guy that can get to the next level if you run duo. But I don't want to see him back for top center pay or even median center pay. It would have to be bottom third of the league center pay if you decide to bring him back. And mainly that's because of his experience now, right? Eric Wilson, outside linebacker, obviously he's probably going to play a little Will or a little Sam. He's a great special teams player. I'd like to see him back. So when you look at who they're losing, Royce Newman, I know we're going to be all heartbroken over that one, right? I shouldn't say that. Kenny Clark's the big one. Jordan Love got to get the contract done. Eric Stokes, I think you let him walk, man. I do. Unless, like Josh Myers, he's willing to take a significant pay decrease, right? Pay cut. So it's kind of how I see those players. So you got to start looking for Kenny Clark's replacement, right? And if you bring Kenny Clark back, great. We talked about it. What if they extend Kenny for 2 or 3 years and they draft a defensive tackle, right? If you go that route, then you're kind of, okay, this guy doesn't have to be thrust into the spotlight. Some people are going, that's Devontae White. I wish it was, guys, but I just don't. Like, he's a great pass rusher, but you gotta be able to play the run too. One of the reasons that the run defense has struggled the last couple of years, I think, is missed tackles in the backfield and guys just not getting off their block. Like, let me put it this way. If you put a top 10 defensive lineman, right? And I'm talking about balanced defensive linemen, not just in pressure rate. And pressure rate's important on those key situations, don't get me wrong. You've got to be able to rush the quarterback. You got to be able to play the run to the quarterback, right? And you can't play the run to the quarterback if you're not playing the run at all, right? You just can't do that. So that's the part that I struggle with the defensive line. So let me close this out, and we're going to go to the lineup screen here on PFF. Let me do this real quick. I want to kind of get your all's take on the lineup here. And this is on PFF. And again, we went to the nickel set. This is what your 4-3 is probably going to look like. Okay. Now, if you went with the highest graded players, this is kind of PFF's approach, right? You guys confirm for me that you can see this okay. Hopefully it's not too the font's not too small. Let me try to get in here a little closer. Maybe that helps. There we go. Hopefully y'all can see that. If you can't, then I can't do anything for you. I'm sorry. Let's start with the defense, right? We were talking about Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark, a 70.4. He's the 32nd graded defensive lineman in the NFL last year, interior defensive lineman. Look who's next to him. Carl Brooks, 69.8. We kind of talked about that all year long. Carl Brooks looks like he's the better interior defensive lineman to play alongside Kenny Clark. So why are we forcing Devontae White in there? Because you spent a first-round pick on him, right? And again, I'm not saying you should cut White. I'm not saying you should bury White on the depth chart. White may come out this year and be, a 5 times better run defender. We just haven't seen it yet. So if Kenny Clark isn't on the roster next year, what you're probably looking at is Carl Brooks and Devontae White. Are we okay with that? Because that guy who's going to play a 1, 2, or 3 tech in certain situations, to me, he's one of, if not the most important defenders on the field. He's the closest guy to the ball every single snap. Now, we know edge defenders. We see them as tier 1 as well. You're pretty well set there with Rashawn Gary, right, at a 79. Preston Smith sitting at a 70.5. It's definitely not a weak spot on our team. Plus, you got LVN, who I think is going to take a big step forward. All the signs were there last year, right? So hopefully that pans out. So will we go defensive line? That's the question. I think it's going to take the value being just way too good to pass up on, right? To not take a defensive lineman in the first round is what I'm talking about. If the right guy falls in the first round, I would be okay with that. If you look at the next level, you got Quay Walker and McDuffie as your starting linebackers in this nickel 4-2-5. Okay. Quay Walker, 58.5. He was the 66th highest graded linebacker. That suggests he should play well, and he's kind of that secondary player, right? There's two things that come into mind for me when you talk about linebackers. One, are they tall enough to play mock? And it seems like in this Hafley style defense, which is a Robert Saleh style defense, you want your mock to be 6'2" or taller. Okay. You want a little more height at mock. Doesn't mean someone can't play mock shorter, but you're kind of wanting that taller player. Quay Walker fits that bill. But the problem is he's not even grading out as a starting caliber linebacker. If you have one stack backer to put on the field, he's not even grading out high enough to be there. He's not grading out to be the number 2. He's kind of borderline number 3. Hopefully that changes. That's what Mike Wall was talking about the other day. He thinks that, I don't want to put words into his mouth. I believe he said he thinks that this 4-3 defense will unlock Quay and allow him to play a lot faster. Hopefully that's the case, right? That's what I'm hoping for. And I'm not suggesting that Quay Walker shouldn't be starting. You've got to give him a legit shot, more than enough shot in this 4-3 defense. We may come out this year and he look like a totally different player. That would be awesome. Most people see him as a will backer. He's got the height to play mock. He's wore the green dot. All those things kind of line up like, okay, they're okay with him playing mock. But maybe it's something that if you can upgrade the will position, which in this case, if we looked at it and we said McDuffie would be your will and Quay Walker would be your mock, then we need to find someone who's going to grade higher than a 57.1, the 69th highest graded linebacker. I think McDuffie held his own from time to time. Matter of fact, I think he played better than Devondre Campbell in some occasions. So that's kind of another weak spot there. That's why we're looking at linebacker. Let's slide down to the corners real quick. Jair Alexander, 75.9. Opposite him on the outside, Eric Stokes, 51.5 when he was on the field, right? So that's why we're talking corner too. Keyshawn Nixon in the slot, 60.0, right? That's why we're talking about possibly a Cooper DeJean. If a Cooper DeJean can come in and play the slot and you keep Stokes on the outside or you put Corey Ballantyne on the outside like I was suggesting, then honestly, I think Stokes is kind of one of those guys that you could potentially trade him this year. Last year, the contract, someone else probably had a high grade on him too. It just hasn't worked out in Green Bay. If he's healthy, you could do that. Watch him go light it up somewhere else, right? That's a yin and yang to it, though. That's what sucks is just when you decide to move on, all of a sudden it clicks somewhere else. That's the other thing too with Hafley's defense. They call Hafley this defensive back whisperer, right? Maybe he can unlock Eric Stokes, and we got 1 year to see that. That's why I'm okay with, obviously I'm not on board with just, hey, let's just trade him and cut bait. Give him a shot in the 4-3 as well. It doesn't mean you extend him now. It doesn't mean you pick up that 4th year or that 5th year option, which, by the way, I think that's got to be decided here real soon by May, I believe, if I remember correctly. If anybody knows in the comments, mention it there. But I think that's got to be decided in May where they're going to pick that up. I hope they don't pick that up because I think you can extend him for a lot less based off of his injury history and how he's played, if indeed you do want to keep him on the roster. So Do You Rant in the chat says, I can't see the Packers picking up that 5th year option. I agree, Do You Rant. But I said the same thing about Savage, bub, and they picked it up. I was like, all right, what do I know? Milltown Corey, hopefully Stokes can get and stay healthy. I agree. That would be that's ideal there, buddy. Let's see here. Dave in the chat says, or Dave's MX6 Garcia says, Stokes went to the same specialist at UW, University of Wisconsin, that Watson did. I know I'm going to butcher his dad's name. Basically, Christian Watson's dad said he thinks they figured it out since they specialize in hamstrings there. If they did, you got to also think, though, it wasn't just the hammy with Stokes before, right? So if they do get the hammy straightened out, he's had other injuries, too, that kind of worry me a little bit. The most recent one was definitely the hamstring, though. You're right, when that happened on a special teams play. Let's see here. Coach Lynn in the chat said, I like Murphy and Newton in the draft, but I don't think they can play nose. May need to pay Kenny. That's a good point. When you're playing nose in the 43, as you know, Coach Lynn, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different than a 34, right? You're not necessarily two gapping. But I see what you're saying, especially bringing in a rookie. Who could play nose that's on the roster right now that would be on the roster next year? I think we would all agree there's a good chance TJ Slayton's going to get a chance to test free agency and possibly leave. If Kenny Clark's not on the roster, I don't see Carl Brooks as a nose. Definitely don't see him as a nose. Could Devontae Wyatt play nose? I don't see it, right? So when you're starting to look at Newton and Murphy, can they play nose? If you're going to take them with the 25th pick because they fail, they better be able to play nose, right? They got to be able to do multiple things like that, because that's a lot of capital to spend, a lot of value, I should say, to spend on defensive tackle. So when you look at the safety, you guys know I talk about Tyler Nubin all the time. They've got Anthony Johnson Jr. listed as the box safety here coming up this year. He was the 91st graded safety out of 95. Just didn't work out for the 7th round pick there, Anthony Johnson Jr. So you're looking to upgrade there. You're looking to upgrade at least with one linebacker in this nickel 4-2-5 in the middle, and you're looking to upgrade on the outside. I would choose outside over upgrading the slot. If you get Cooper DeJean can play safety. He can play nickel. He can play outside. Outside isn't ideal, as you heard Greg Cosell talk about. I think Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, if I remember correctly, they agreed that Cooper DeJean would hands down be the best slot defender in this draft, but you still got that problem on the outside if you go that route, right? That's why I lean towards Kool-Aid McKinstry as the 25th pick. I think you put him on the outside. You let Key continue to play the slot since you paid him $6 million. You get that buttoned up a bit. Maybe you take a hybrid safety later in the draft that can kind of fill in a pinch in the slot if Nixon goes down, that type of thing. And then you go get someone like a Tyler Nubin or, the latest one here. His name's talking about so many names. See so many names on screen right now. It's leaving me. Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop's another one that people are talking about. Hey, that could be a late round gem that you could potentially get and play at safety, right? So with that being said, we looked at the roster there on defense. If you look at offense, I did not expect to talk this long on just the roster, but I think this is a good conversation. We'll finish it up here real quick on offense. We'll be fast. Receiver, you're set, guys. Like, you don't even see Wicks on the field here. You don't even see Bo Melton on the field here. Bo Melton, he graded out as the highest graded wide receiver on the team. I think he was in the 80s. Granted, it was a smaller sample size, but still showed that he can handle his own at the NFL level. They got Watson at a 68.2. You guys know he battled injuries all year last year, still graded as the 59th best wide receiver. Jaden Reed in the slot there, 41st best wide receiver. Romeo Dobbs, 39th with a 73.6. Dontavian Wicks, I think, is going to eventually be the number one wide receiver, number one outside wide receiver. Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing about LaFleur's offense is you've got that flyer position. It's kind of that hybrid Z, right, that they like to use a lot of jet motion with and everything. So I think Wicks and Reed are both good enough. Reed is actually a really good Z receiver. You can see it all over the tape in 2021 at Michigan State. If you get Reed and Wicks where they can be interchangeable, where they can play flyer, they can play that F, and they can also play the slot. They can play the Z if you just want to not use motion, that type of thing. Then you got two interchangeable parts there. You got Watson stretching the field on the outside from time to time. You got Romeo Dobbs out there who has arguably the best hands on the team now. And then you throw in Bo Melton that can stretch the field too. We've seen that a handful of times last year when they were both healthy. Bo Melton and Christian Watson both on the field at the same time, man. I guarantee you the scouting reports that week were telling those DBs, hey, look, if you see number 9 and you see Bo Melton on the field at the same time, be ready to backpedal because both those dudes are scorchers. They can stretch the freaking field. So, so wide receiver, I think we're set. Tight end, I think we're fairly set. Luke Musgrave, 68.1, graded as the 22nd best tight end. You got Tucker Kraft, who's right behind him, who I think in some cases played better than Luke Musgrave last year. You're bringing back Ben Sims, have his second year in the offense. I thought he performed pretty well. And you're bringing back Tyler Davis off that ACL, who's more of a blocker. I think he may try to play a little more of that H row. He did a lot of sifting off the wing. So that'll probably be that guy. The big hole here on offense as we look here is hands down center and right guard. And if you had to choose between the two, right guard is in a worse situation. Sean Ryan at a 49.3. You got Josh Myers at a 54.7. So when you hear people talk about kicking Tom, again, Tom is a Pro Bowl right tackle, a all-pro right guard, and a Hall of Fame center is what Rob Domofsky said was said from someone within the building. So if you're able to draft a tackle and you do move Tom to right guard, right? And again, I'm not suggesting there's two ways people argue this. They suggest that if you just draft a tackle, it's going to be a slam dunk better than Sean Ryan at right guard. So you can kick Tom to right guard and play that tackle out there. And it's not that easy. It's not that big of a slam dunk, right? And the other opinion is, well, if you draft a rookie tackle, they're not going to be as good as Sean Ryan is at right guard. And it's like there's no in between. I have an issue with that. We see tackles taken every single year in the draft that end up being good starting tackles, right? So this whole Zach Tom, for God's sakes, we drafted Zach Tom late in the draft, right? And the dude came out and just lit it up. Now all of a sudden he's the 15th best graded tackle at right tackle. Now, I guarantee you if they knew Tom was going to be that good, they would have drafted him earlier because it means other people would have known he was that good, right? So, again, the big hole here on offense for me is right guard and center. So I say all that so we can kind of get into talking a little draft prospects here. We establish where the biggest holes are, right? And forget how many bodies we need on the field, as Mike McCarthy would say. Let's just talk about how do we improve our starting caliber defense here. This year, you wouldn't need to get a defensive lineman to improve your defensive line, in my opinion. Like you're pretty well set there on the front. I like the way that front looks in the nickel 4-2-5. But you need an outside corner, right? You need a nickel back, possibly. You can improve there. You need a linebacker, possibly two linebackers, to be honest with you. When you're in a 4-3 defense, if you drafted two and both those guys somehow, some way, earn their stripes in camp and they become starters at the linebacker position, then you're going to improve yourself over McDuffie there. I think Quay will start. I don't think anybody thinks Quay's just all of a sudden going to the bench. So let's do cornerback, nickelback, linebacker, and let's go box safety. All right. So with that being said, you guys know we've been I'm talking about absolutely shredding the mock drafts, right? This is why we've been doing it. We wanted to compile information this entire time and try to decide, okay, who are the best, not necessarily fits, but what positions do we need to upgrade and how is the board falling? How are the mock drafts falling? So this right here was a group mock draft where we took Jackson Powers Johnson with the 25th pick. That's a center. Now you understand why we took him at center, right? Because on the offensive side of the ball, like I said, center and right guard are the main needs that we see. So we took Jackson Powers Johnson with the 25th pick. We took Ennis Rakestraw Jr. with the 41st pick. With the 58th pick, we took Chris Jenkins. With the 88th pick, we took Christian Mahogany, guard, right? So we've taken center, cornerback, defensive line, guard. Then we went safety, Kalen Bullock with the 91st pick. And I'm just going to keep it within the first 3 rounds, okay, of these mocks that we did. Another mock that we did, I did one on the 7th. I took Jerzon Newton, right? Defensive lineman. I took him with the 25th pick. I thought the quality was just too good to pass up on. 41, surprise, surprise, I took Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, safety, right? 58, I took Christian Haynes. 88, I took center Bo Limmer. And then 91, I took Cedric Gray, linebacker out of North Carolina. Now, on the April 11th mock draft, I used the Pro Football Networks. I took Chop Robinson, who somehow, some way fell to me. I thought the value was too good there at the edge position. There's a chance you can kick LVN inside. He played defensive tackle quite a bit at Iowa in a 4-3 front. So I think it's a possibility you could rotate him in and out on the interior. Chop Robinson's be an extra edge defender in case next year you decide to move on from Preston Smith. Now you got that solid rotational guy. LVN steps into the starting outside the edge spot opposite Rashawn Gary. And now you've got Chop Robinson as that rotational guy, along with Kingsley and Igbare. 41, I went Tyler Nubin. 58, I went Kamari Lassiter. 88, I went Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And then 91, we went Kyron Amagaji. The April 12th mock draft, we went Kool-Aid McKinstry at 25, Tyler Nubin at 41, Christian Haynes at 58, Dominic Pooney, tackle, at 88, We went Bo Limmer at 91, and we were able to get Cedric Gray at 126. Some people heard those top 5 picks and went, where's the linebacker, Clayton? Cedric Gray was the better value, I felt like, at 126, so we projected, let's wait and get our linebacker then. You don't have that luxury on draft day. We don't know. The teams don't know how the boards are going to fall, right? So just when we looked up and go, okay, his average draft position is, he being Cedric Gray is 150. All right, he'll definitely be there at 126. That is not how the draft works in the NFL. They got their horizontal board set, and they're understanding that they could lose their top guy any moment, no matter what they thought other teams were interested in doing. So with that being said, I went through and compiled each player that we took. We're trying to limit it to the first 3 rounds, okay? But these are a lot of the players that were taken, and we're going to compare them across the board. Let's start with cornerback, all right? Kool-Aid McKinstry. This is probably my favorite pick at number 25. PFF grades, starting in 2021, 67, jumped all the way to an 82, then jumped all the way to an 88.8. Coverage grade, 87.8. Run defense grade, 83.0. Man cover grade, 74.7. Zone cover grade, 83.8. Completion percentage when targeted was 48.7%. Now, who else at 25 can play corner, right? Cooper DeJean's the other name that gets thrown around. PFF grade starting in 2021, 65.5, 88.5. Then last year he dipped back to a 77.4. Now, last year's comparables, coverage grade 76.8, run defense grade 78.6, completion percentage when targeted 43.5%. Man coverage grade was only a 63.7, so he struggled in man. Zone coverage grade was a 73.1. Look at the difference between those. Let's just go with coverage grade first. Cooper DeJean, 76.8 cover grade. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 87.8. Run defense grade. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 83.0. Cooper DeJean, 78.6. Man cover grade. Cooper DeJean, 63.7. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 74.7. Completion percentage when targeted. Kool-Aid McKinstry, 48.7%. Cooper DeJean, 43.5%. So we got the first thing that Cooper is better than Kool-Aid in is the completion percentage when targeted. Zone cover grade for Cooper DeJean, 73.1. And then the zone cover grade for Kool-Aid McKinstry, 83.8. So the only thing that Cooper DeJean graded out better when it comes from a coverage standpoint and even run defense as well. Everybody talks about how Cooper DeJean is just this awesome run defender, right? And I'm not dogging him. He had a great year in 2022. But Kool-Aid McKinstry's run defense grade is 83 and Cooper DeJean's is only 78.6, right? And again, I'm not trying to say that we shouldn't take Cooper DeJean. If we take Kool-Aid, he's on the outside, right? And keep in mind what we talked about here when we look at this. Look at Stokes, 51.5. Imagine you get Kool-Aid and he comes in and grades in the mid-60s, right? I'm not suggesting he needs to grade out in the 80s. He may come in the NFL and just light it up. So kind of looking at that comparison, I definitely give the edge to Kool-Aid over Cooper DeJean. Now, if you put Cooper DeJean at the safety position, right, let's compare him. Some people are saying he's the best safety in the draft. Look at his coverage grade, 76.8. You guys know I'm the president of the Tyler Nubin fan club here, right? Look at his coverage grade. Cooper DeJean, 76.8. Look at Tyler Nubin, 90.1. Forced incompletion rate, 20%. Missed tackle rate, one of the best missed tackle rates in all of college football at 9.4%. Look at the average depth of run tackle, 10.9. Right? So he's just elite across the board. His PFF grades, 72, then increased to 76, then increased all the way to 89. So, again, I know they're not going to take Tyler Nubin in the first round because it would break precedent. You know, you'd have to have an 8, I think over an 8.3 RAS, I think is the exact number for the Packers to draft a player in the first round. I'm talking about Tyler Nubin at 41. So if you take Tyler Nubin at 41, where does the value lie with Cooper DeJean at 25? It would have to be in the slot, right? That's kind of the way the draft keeps falling for me. So that's why I'm a little less aggressive on drafting Cooper DeJean and more aggressive on Kool-Aid. Let's say you took Kool-Aid with the 25th pick, right? You took Kool-Aid McKinstry and we don't know if he's going to be available. Again, this is just the majority of our mocks kind of showed, all right, here's the guys we're choosing from. Okay. Understand none of this isn't a prediction. What we don't do on the show is we don't go, let me take the Packers will never draft him, or we'll never say, hey, look, we're doing mock drafts to try to predict what the Packers are doing. That's not what we're doing. We're trying to do mock drafts to gather information to go, okay, which players are the biggest fits, right? Which are the guys it's like, man, based on our needs, we could get him here, reach a touch on each round to ensure that you're getting the guys you want. And you can fill the majority of these holes that we just outlined on PFF. So with Kool-Aid, I would like to see him go Kool-Aid at 25. Now you've got your outside corner. Once again, replace Stokes with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Love it. Absolutely love it. You keep Stokes on the roster for depth, right? And if it does click when he gets in the game, awesome. You'll have Keyshawn in the slot, no problem. And then at 41, you take Tyler Nubin, Mr. 89.2, got better every single year, right? And you put him in as your box safety. So you see Anthony Johnson Jr. at a 47.9 at safety. Replace that with a Tyler Nubin, who was an 89.2. Again, if he grades out in the mid-60s, if he grades out in the 60s, that's usually a pretty good indicator that a guy's going to be a good pro. So that would be an improvement over Anthony Johnson Jr. So with pick 25, you improved your outside corner position. And with pick 41, you improve your safety position. Again, I'm not saying it's a guarantee. I got to keep saying it because people are going, Clayton, you're making it sound like these are slam dunk. We're going to miss on picks. We are. This gives you the best shot of filling those holes, and it matches with the best players available. There are no reaches with these picks. I don't believe in reaching. Some people will do mock drafts, and there's nothing wrong with it. They're like, I really like this guy, so I'm just going to take him here. I'm always looking at, like, who's the top 10 best available? All right. How's it line up with my board? What do the PFF grades suggest? What's the RAS say? Take all that information and put it into the draft board, and that's how I come up with what I feel like are the best players available. It's not me, my personal opinion. I went and watched the tape, and I like him better than him. I'm not going to sit there and pretend like I'm a pro scout. I'm just not going to do it. Those dudes, those guys and gals put in endless hours into studying football tape to hone their craft. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like on the weekends I can pick up a damn tablet and go, yep, this is how you grade players. I take all that information and put it into a database, and that's how I get my board. That's basically how it works. So again, I would like Kool-Aid at 25. I'd like Nubin at 41. Now, who are some of the other options at 25 as we get ready to wrap up? I just want to give a quick glance at those, okay? We talked about Kool-Aid. Obviously 88.8 cornerback, outside cornerback there from Alabama. We talked about Cooper DeJean. Last year graded out 77.4, but the year before an 88.5. He is considered the best slot defender in the draft. He can also play safety, they say. Not your ideal outside corner guy. Another one at 25 was Amarius Mims, right? You've heard him get mocked to the Packers quite a bit. 2021, 73.5. 2022, 77.5. 2023, 75.6 were his grades. The thing that really worries me about him, though, that zone grade of 58.4. Now, some people say that Tyler Guyton is the guy, right? He's been mocked to the Packers. I think when you did that mock prediction thing the other day, this right here, they're showing Tyler Guyton going at number 25 more than anyone. Then Amarius Mims, then Cooper DeJean, then Jerzon Newton, right? So when you look at it from that standpoint, I'm not a big Guyton fan. Listen to his PFF grades. Starting in 2021, 69, 66, 63. So he has declined, according to PFF, every single year. That's kind of a red flag for me, man. And again, I'm not suggesting the Packers are looking at PFF grades, but it's very, very, very rare that I look at a PFF grade and then go watch the tape and go, man, they missed that. It almost always lines up perfectly. So that's why I'm not big on Tyler Guyton, okay, because of those PFF grades. Again, 69, then he went down in 2022 to a 66.2, then he went down in 2023 to a 63.7. Not a big fan. So Amarius Mims, again, 75.6. It's just that zone grade makes me go, I don't know about him at 25, right? Now, if a great tackle falls to us, one of the top-tier tackles, absolutely jump all over it. Some would suggest that Amarius Mims is a top tackle, right? I know I've got him extremely high on my board, and he's one of those guys that's got a ton of upside. Like he is an absolute monster on the field as far as his size and reach and all that stuff. Another one that kept popping up at 25 was Johnny Newton. All right, Johnny Newton, PFF grades 57. You're going, whoa, yuck. Jumped all the way to 91.5 in 2022. Last year, settled in at an 84.9. Okay, so Johnny Newton, pass rush grade 84.0, run defense grade 77.1, pass rush win rate 15.4%, true pass set, pass rush grade 75.1, his run stop rate 7.4%. All right, so that's a guy, if he falls to 25, I'm okay with that too. Byron Murphy, very similar. Byron Murphy has now leapfrogged him on the big boards. Byron Murphy's grade 73, 82, 91. Pass rush grade 91.5, run defense grade 80.5, pass rush win rate 19.6%, true pass set, pass rush grade 91.9, and his run stop rate 9.5%. So if I had to choose between those two and they're both on the board, I'm not suggesting they will be at 25, and this might be why the Packers might potentially trade up if they want to get Kenny Clark's replacement. For me, it would be Byron Murphy over Johnny Newton now, although my board would suggest a little different. I think Byron Murphy leapfrogged him on my board. I'm excited to get that horizontal board built so we can see exactly where he falls. So those are a couple of defensive linemen that kept popping up in this draft. The last one we'll cover at 25 was Jackson Powers Johnson. Let's say we went this route and we put, again, it goes without saying, but Byron Murphy and Johnny Newton, that would be your Kenny Clark replacement of the future. Okay. It's not like, hey, let's just plug and play them this year. They're going to be absolutely dominant. So that's why I'm a little, if the value's too good, you got to take them, but it's not an ideal situation either way. Right. So now we're looking at Jackson Powers Johnson. Let's say you go, you know what? The value's too good here. He's sitting there at 25. Let's go ahead and replace Josh Myers with Jackson Powers Johnson. Okay. These are his grades. 70.1 in 2021. He jumped all the way to 84.1 in 2022. Then he jumps to 84.5 in 2023. Steady increase in ability, right? Now, here's where it gets good. Run block grade, 85.6. Pass block grade, 90.6. Zone grade, 83.8. Like his zone blocking grade is pegged out through the roof amongst centers. And that's exactly what we want to do in this. And keep in mind, we signed Josh Jacobs. Everyone immediately shifts their focus and goes, maybe they're looking to run more inside zone this year, right? This lines up perfect if he's available. Most mock drafts, he's not there at 25. Several mock drafts we did, he was available. So I wanted to mention him. These are the players that I'm most excited about that I'd be like, okay, I'm okay with these guys at 25. And let's see here what else he's got. Gap grade 70.2. Again, we're not a big gap team. True pass set, pass block grade 87.1. Just through the freaking roof with that. So obviously he's played right guard in the past. In 2022, he played 350 snaps there. In 2023, he played every one of his snaps at center. So there's someone too that could potentially play right guard for you. And then you kick him to center when Josh Myers is gone. And in that case, you would leave Zach Tom in place in the right tackle position as we're showing you right here. Okay, so Zach Tom would stay at right tackle. You could bring in Jackson Powers Johnson, throw him in at right guard, and then work him into center, or throw him in at center and see if Myers can play right guard. Or you can do this right here, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds. We're going to cover this later. Go and draft someone like this, a Christian Haynes. 72, 83, 80. Put him at right guard. Throw Jackson Powers Johnson at center. And again, we got Christian Haynes at 58 on most mocks. So that's another way that you can just completely fix the offensive line. The problem is we had a top 10 offense last year. People going, that's a problem? I'm saying the problem with taking those guys really early is I feel like you need to focus on defense. You need to focus on box safety. You need to first and foremost, you need to focus on linebacker. You need to get you a linebacker that's going to be able to play alongside Quay Walker in that nickel 4-2-5. Then it can go box safety or outside corner. And I'm okay with taking a corner at 25 because the value is going to be there. Linebacker value is not going to be there at 25, right? Some people are saying Peyton Wilson should be the pick at 25. I'm not as big a fan of Peyton Wilson. Plus, the 33rd team has him listed as a will, which means you got to kick Quay over to Mike. To me, the perfect scenario would be Junior Colson at 41. You get him at 41. Again, his PFF grades 48, 75, 81. You heard Jacob talk about his background, him and Tim. They had a lot of good information on him the other day and how some of the obstacles that he's overcome. If you drafted him at 41, right, and you put him in the mock, now Quay can play Will. And again, Junior Colson is listed by the 33rd team as the top graded mock linebacker in this year's draft. So we're going to get into some of these picks a little later. We're at the 58-minute mark. I'm going to go hit the chat real quick, and we'll get you guys and gals out of here. Let's see what we got in the chat. Probably going to be hard for me to read them and know what to put up. Let's see what we got. Coach Lynn says Gotten is more NFL ready. Mims has higher upside. That's exactly what I've heard, Coach Lynn. PFF would disagree based off the grades. But again, PFF isn't everything, right? There's a reason that people are talking about Gotten more than, or not more, but he's been kind of picked as the perfect fit for Green Bay over Mims, right? And I agree. I think Mims is probably going to have to sit a year. That's the other thing about the Mims pick. I'm just not big on Gotten for those reasons that we talked about, right? Like, again, it's the PFF grades that just get me. 69, 66, 63. He's declined every year. That's tough for me, man. Now, he did play right tackle. So if you did take Gotten and they absolutely love him, well, let's just talk about his details here real quick, Coach Lynn. Run block grade, 60.5. Pass block grade, 72.9. Zone grade. Remember, we're a zone-heavy team, right? 55.0 zone block grade. That's like, oh, man, that's tough. Let me get it on the screen here so you guys can see it, and then we'll get out since Coach Lamb brought this up. It's a great point. Again, I'm not saying, no, absolutely not. There's a reason there's some buzz around him, right? Let me see if I can get him to pull up here. That would be draft board. Bang. All right. Yeah, so here's his card, Coach Lynn. Doesn't look pretty, man. It looks like he's more of a gap blocker than a zone blocker. His true pass block grade was 59. Now, PFF could have screwed his grade up, right? I'm not ruling that out. It's just that's why I'm a little more hesitant on him, I think you're spot on too with the what you said about Mims and him having higher upside, right? So that's just something to keep an eye on. And again, people were going, oh, well, there's no way they'll draft Guyton. It isn't everything, but ESPN Analytics, the draft day predictor, I think they throw a lot of stuff in here. They throw needs, they throw size thresholds, all that stuff into the mix. Tyler Guyton was definitely the one that seems like he has the highest chance of being taken. I want to pull this up real quick. I know I've got some of the threshold stuff that Chris thank you so much, Chris Nichols, for sending it over. If I could find it real quick, let's see if that might be the reason that they're so high on him as the probable pick for Green Bay, because of the thresholds might line up. Let's see. Let's find tackle real quick. And again, thank you so much, Chris, for sending this over to me, buddy. Offensive tackle. Yeah, Tyler Guyton would be a perfect fit. Joe Alt is number one. Number two would be Tyler Guyton. And the reason Tyler Guyton is his RAS was a 9.7, so he definitely meets the threshold there. His age is only 22 years old. They love those younger players. His you got to have a 4.75 shuttle or less. He came in just underneath that at a 4.71. And then the 3 cone, you got to have a 7.75 or less. He came in at a 7.5. So he meets all the thresholds. And maybe that's why they're saying, hey, look, age, size, RAS, all that. I just don't like those grades, man. I don't like those grades. Show me the player that graded out bad in college and then came in the league and played great. I'm sure they're out there. You just don't hear about them often, right? Now, you find players more often than that, in my opinion, that graded out well according to PFF in college. They dropped in the draft because of their RAS or because of their 40 time, and then they come out in the league and they rip it up. Go look at Puka Nacua. Puka Nacua I think he was the highest graded wide receiver the year he come out. He fell in the draft because, no, the measurables aren't there. He goes out there in L.A., lines up across from Cooper Kupp, and they are just a Batman and Robin, dude. Just unbelievable. So, again, I'm just not that big on Tyler Guyton. I don't have my board handy right now. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. So, just thought that'd be a cool little exercise. We're going to continue it tonight, too. If the guys are on with me tonight, we're going to do that trade up to 16 mock draft because someone asked for that, too. And I think by doing that, it's going to kind of show people, all right, yeah, we love the idea of trading up in the draft and grabbing a better player. Who wouldn't? But when you look at the capital, you're going to have to sacrifice, to trade up like that. And again, we've got the trade chart that we'll go off of. We'll make it as realistic as possible. I'm just team trade down, man. I'm stick and pick or trade down. And it's all going to come down to, does someone in Goody's top tier on his board, on his horizontal board, does one or two of those players fall where he goes, all right, guaranteed we can get one of those top tier players. Let's trade up to 16 or let's trade up to 18 and try to grab one, right? That's what's going to determine that. So this was a fun conversation, though. I want to thank everybody in the chat for kind of helping keep it going here as we're flying solo. I always think I'm going to dread the solo shows, but then I get in here and you guys kind of carry the load for me in the chat, and we get to kind of breaking stuff down specifically. I don't, sometimes I feel like I'm talking over the guys, and look, I am the farthest thing from a professional podcaster, as you guys are well aware of that now. Sometimes I get done with the pod and I want to message the guys, go like, man, I feel like I talked over you. I feel like I didn't let you talk enough. So sometimes it's good to do a solo show just to kind of, not have that feeling, to be honest with you. But there's nothing better than talking ball with Tim and Jacob and Emilio, Carly, and the whole game. It's a blast. So let's see. M. Smitty in the chat, we'll end it with this. He said, Clayton, more swings at the bat is never a bad strategy. I agree, man. Especially when you see him land a Jaden Reed and a Tucker Kraft and a Luke Musgrave and some of these great players in the second and third round, right? Hopefully that third round curse is behind us now. So, all right. We're out, guys. Again, want to just thank everybody for coming in here and hanging out this morning. Kind of an impromptu one, but we had a good crowd in here. I know we got over 200 people watching right now. If you're on X watching, feel free to click on my profile. That'll send you to a YouTube link where you can subscribe to the channel there. A little bit easier interface, and you can comment a lot easier on YouTube. So just keep that in mind. But we'll be back tonight for PTA Live at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. There's a chance I'll do a midday PTA if I get a little time. I got to get out here and, like I said, get some property cleaned up. If we get that straightened out, then you may see us just randomly go live, say around 2 or 3. Okay. So keep an eye out for that, but we'll definitely be back for PTA Live tonight at 7 Central. So thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day as well. And as always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The first taste of rare bourbon you finally got your hands on. That's nice. At Caskers.com, we make this experience easy. Caskers is a one-stop spirit curator with an impressive selection of exclusive, sought-after, rare, and household names in the realm of premium spirits and champagne. Discover the top flavors of the year now by going to Caskers.com and using code WELCOME10 for $10 off your first purchase. Get $10 off your first purchase with code WELCOME10 at Caskers.com.